Hi, Rama. It's week 23, day 5 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we're in 1 Kings chapter 2. We have come to the end of the life of King David. David is talking to his son Solomon and tells him he's about to go the way of all the earth. He means he's about to die, and he's giving his son final wisdom, final private words, parting words. We see in the end of 2 Samuel David's final public words, if you want to think of it that way. But here he's speaking to his son in private, and he gives him wisdom, basically saying, Solomon, if you will obey these things I'm telling you, you will be successful as king. So as you read that, keep that in mind and see how even in this chapter 2, Solomon follows his father's advice. This sets us up for a contrast that we'll see later after Solomon's death and his son takes the throne, and the people begin to approach him saying, look, your father has ruled over us in this way, and Solomon's son has to face this choice of listening to one group of people or the other. He chooses poorly, and the kingdom is ultimately divided. But here, Solomon listens to his father's advice, and we see that play out here in the rest of the chapter. We see that David does indeed die. He's buried. And we get that information there in those verses 10 through 12. Then we see that Solomon's reign is established. How is this going to take place? Because his brother Adonijah was seeking to be king. And we've seen that he in one sense has surrendered, and he even acknowledges here in verse 15, knowing that this is from the Lord, that God has chosen Solomon to be king. But he goes and he says this to Solomon's mother, Bathsheba, and he's seeking to try to get his way in here. And he asks Bathsheba this request. He says, look, I only ask this one thing. I know that he's going to be king. I know this comes from God, but I only ask for this one thing. Would you ask him to give me Abishag the Shunammite as my wife? Now you might think, well, maybe he just wants to go settle down somewhere and be married and not try to be king. And perhaps Bathsheba doesn't understand the implication of what he's asking, because she says, sure, I'll go talk to him about it. But Solomon understands absolutely what's happening. Solomon knows that by taking the king's, the Shunammite, the concubine of King David, that this is a way of trying to assert authority as king. The same way that Absalom took David's concubines when Absalom was seeking to take the throne. So Solomon knows what's happening, and Solomon absolutely says, no way, that's happening at all. And we see that now people are being put to death. Now there's consequences starting to take place. All of these people who fought against Solomon, they have to be eliminated, and so that his throne can be established. Now we see that Solomon shows mercy in some of these respects, and he gives people proverbially enough rope to hang themselves with, and that's what they do. He tells them, look, if you'll just go live here, never come out, just stay there, you'll be fine. But of course they can't live within those restrictions. And so you follow that narrative. We can't read it all and talk about it all here in this video, but you see that by the end of it, that Joab is no longer the general of the army. Joab has done some good things and many bad things throughout his reign as the general of the army under King David. But now he is executed, and he is replaced by Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, one who has been loyal to Solomon. We see also Abiathar, the priest, the only remaining priest earlier in the story, but now he has not been faithful to Solomon as well. And so we see even here, notice that this is fulfilling prophecy. Verse 27, thus fulfilling the word of the Lord that he had spoken concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. So there's a lot of culmination, a lot of resolution taking place here in 1 Kings 1 and 2 as the kingdom of David ends and as the kingdom of Solomon begins. And it all comes to a conclusion at the end of chapter 2 when it says, so the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. Here's a summary of today's reading.
For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.